My sister punched me in the face, then dragged me out by my hair in front of 70 people at her award party. My mom smiled. Nobody stopped her. One call later, and their lives were over. I was standing in the bathroom of the Riverstone Hotel, staring at my reflection like I didn't even recognize her. My lip was split. There was blood on my teeth, and my scalp throbbed where clumps of hair had been yanked out. My dress, white satin, sleeveless, stupidly optimistic, was torn at the shoulder and stained from where I hit the floor. The overhead light made everything worse, harsher, sharper, realer. Outside those doors, 70 people were still sipping champagne and toasting my sister, Fallon Blake, America's sweetheart entrepreneur, the face of women in tech, and apparently someone who punches her little sister in front of a room full of investors and friends like it's part of the show. And they just stood there, most of them, except my mom, who smiled, and one woman who had the nerve to whisper, "I think she deserved it." Let me rewind. I didn't want to come. I'd just returned from 6 months stationed in Hawaii. All I wanted was 1 week without protocol, emails, or pretending I'm okay with people treating uniform service like some kind of charity case. But I got the invite, a printed one. Cream cardstock with gold trim. Fallon Blake, Women in Tech, Pioneer of the Year. Join us for an exclusive celebration. My name was scribbled at the bottom in ballpoint ink like an afterthought. And love, Mom. I almost tossed it, but part of me, stupid, loyal, maybe masochistic, thought maybe this time, just maybe, they'd act like family. So I packed a bag, flew into Denver, and Ubered straight to the venue. No time to stop by home, not that I wanted to. The Riverstone Ballroom was as over the top as Fallon herself. Gold chairs, floral centerpieces that looked like wedding arches, servers in tuxedos passing around hors d'oeuvres no one could pronounce. I stepped in quietly, sticking to the wall. I wasn't exactly expecting a red carpet, but I thought someone might notice or say hi. My mom was too busy doing her politician's smile tour around the room. My dad wasn't there. Surprise. He never is. And Fallon? She was holding court in the center like she just invented the internet. I spotted her before she saw me. Sleek black dress, perfect makeup, doing that laugh she does when she knows people are watching. I waited until the clapping died down, then made my way toward the table with the gifts. I placed mine gently, one I actually spent time on, a framed, restored photo of the two of us as kids, before everything went sideways. "Wow," Fallon said behind me. "Didn't expect you to show." I turned. "Didn't expect to be invited." Her smile stayed, but her eyes... Well, Mom insisted. Said it'd be good PR, you know. The whole family values thing. Then she picked up the photo frame, looked at it like it was a grocery receipt, and set it down without a word. "Try not to make a scene, Lisa. We both know you have a history." I laughed, just once. "A history of what, Fallon? Breathing too loud at dinner? Not clapping hard enough when you won? Most likely to succeed in 8th grade? The smile cracked. Just a hair, but enough. She stepped closer. "You always had this jealous little streak. It's pathetic. Really. You act like joining the military makes you better than us." "I didn't join to be better than you," I said. "I joined to get away from you." And just like that, she snapped. 1 second she was standing there, all composed. The next, her hand shot forward and cracked across my face with the kind of force that made the room fall silent. Before I could even process the sting, she grabbed my hair, yanked, and dragged me toward the double doors. I tripped, caught myself, tripped again. Her heels clicked like gunshots. No one said a damn word. I heard gasps, a few uncomfortable laughs. Maybe one person said, "Fallon, stop." But it was the kind of thing people say just loud enough to not feel guilty later. As we passed the cake table, my mom stepped aside to let us through. "She started it," Fallon muttered under her breath like a 12-year-old. My mom didn't ask what happened. She just smiled and sipped her wine. Fallon flung me out into the hallway, let go of my hair, and smoothed her dress like she hadn't just gone full WWE on her little sister. "I told you not to make a scene," she hissed, and walked back in. I sat on the floor for a second, stunned, humiliated. Then I stood up, still shaky, and pushed open the door to the women's room. That's where I was now. Cold tile, overhead light, lip bleeding, heart not broken, just done. I rinsed my mouth with water, wiped the blood with a paper towel, and stared at the woman in the mirror. Still in uniform in a way. Still trained. Still standing. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking. Thought about deleting the contact, then didn't. I tapped the name. Miles. And just like that, it rang. My boots echoed against the sidewalk as I walked, blood still wet on my lip, hair stuck to the side of my face where sweat and tears had mixed. My jaw pulsed, my cheekbone throbbed, and all I could hear was Fallon's voice. Sweet, smug, venomous, playing on a loop in my head. That party, that stupid party, wasn't just another Blake family disaster. It was a declaration. They wanted me gone, erased, disposable. I didn't even make it to my car. I ducked behind a hedge near the valet stand and threw up, shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone when I finally pulled it out again. For a second, I just stared at the screen. Who the hell was I even supposed to call? Not my mom. She laughed when Fallon dragged me. Not my commanding officer. I'd get pulled from my current rotation if this got messy, and I couldn't risk that. I was 2 months out from reassignment, damn near shortlisted for a promotion that actually mattered. I wasn't going to let them take this from me too, not after everything. But I wasn't going to pretend it didn't happen either, not this time. My thumb hovered over one contact for a while. Miles Truitt, First Lieutenant, Legal Support, Camp Pendleton. We'd done joint training overseas, kept in touch ever since. The guy had a spine made of concrete and a moral compass that somehow still worked. More than that, I could trust him. I hit call. He picked up on the second ring. His voice was calm and clipped, like always. Lisa? I couldn't answer at first. My throat tightened, and I had to breathe through my nose so I wouldn't cry like some wounded kid. I wasn't going to cry. Not now, not over them. I need help, I managed to say. Miles didn't ask stupid questions. He didn't ask if I was okay. He just said, "Where are you?" I rattled off the name of the restaurant across the street. He paused, then said, "I'll be there in 20. While I waited, I slid into the last booth inside the diner. Back to the wall. Hoodie pulled up over my tangled hair. The waitress tried to ask if I wanted coffee, but I just shook my head and stared out the window. Every time I blinked, I saw the chandelier above that stage, glittering like it was mocking me. The applause when Fallon got her award. The dead silence when she punched me. The worst part wasn't the hit, it was the approval. It was the way everyone paused, looked, and decided it wasn't their problem. When Miles walked in, he didn't make a scene, just spotted me, nodded once, and slid into the booth across from me. He clocked the swelling on my jaw immediately, the bruising under one eye, the way I kept touching my ribs like they hurt too. All he said was, "What do you need?" That broke something in me. I told him everything. How Fallon had been slowly erasing me from the family for years. How I'd found out last month she used my deployment status to apply for a special VA loan in my name. How tonight she went from fake hugs to full-on assault. And our mother cheered her on like she was watching the Super Bowl. Miles didn't interrupt. He just listened. Jaw locked, knuckles white against the edge of the table. When I finally went quiet, he said, "You have proof?" I nodded slowly. "I've got a folder back in my apartment. Paperwork. Some emails she forwarded by mistake. She listed me as a co-founder on her tech startup application, even though I've never touched a damn thing in that company." Miles leaned in. "Okay, first, we get that stuff documented. Second, you talk to someone who knows how to chase money, someone who can track exactly what she did with your name and where your info ended up." "I don't want this to go away," I said, voice low. "I don't want a quiet settlement or a public apology. I want her out of my life. I want the whole damn thing exposed." "Good," he said, not missing a beat, "because I know exactly who we're calling next." He tapped his phone, typed something, then looked back at me. Dante Sutter, former IRS investigator turned financial bloodhound. The guy tracks fraud the way Marines track targets. I worked with him on a JAG case 2 years ago. If she's been laundering anything under your name or screwing around with military financial benefits, he'll find it. I pressed the ice pack he brought me against my cheek, breathing deep through my nose. "You sure about this?" he asked quietly. "Are you?" I shot back. He gave me that half smile I remembered from training in Okinawa. "Oh, I'm more than sure. Fallon just started a war with a Marine, and I don't think she read the fine print." Outside, the night had gone still and cold. Miles walked me to his truck and opened the door without a word. I slid in slowly, wincing as the bruises stretched under my skin. This wasn't just going to be about what happened tonight. This was about everything they thought they got away with. The truck smelled like pine, air freshener, and black coffee. I leaned my head back against the seat and closed my eyes while Miles drove. The hum of the engine settled under my skin like a sedative. Every bump in the road felt sharper than it should. My ribs ached. My scalp still burned, and the adrenaline was wearing off, leaving only a mix of rage and exhaustion sitting heavy in my gut. Miles didn't talk much. He never did when things were serious. That's why I trusted him. He turned off the highway into a quiet residential area near Aurora, the kind of neighborhood where houses were identical, mailboxes were spotless, and everyone had matching garbage bins. I didn't expect Dante Sutter, the guy Miles said could trace financial fraud with drone strike precision, to live in a place that looked like a retired dentist's dream. But here we were. Miles parked in front of a beige two-story house with a red door and zero personality. The porch light flicked on as we stepped out. "He's a little weird," Miles said under his breath, "but a good weird." The door opened before we even knocked. Dante stood there barefoot, holding a coffee mug with a broken handle and wearing a t-shirt that read, "And death by audit." He had the look of someone who hadn't slept in days, but had memorized the tax code front to back, for fun. "You must be Lisa," he said, eyes sharp as hell. "Come in. I've already pulled your records." I paused mid-step. "You what?" Dante shrugged. "Miles texted me your full name and date of birth 15 minutes ago. I ran a basic scan." He stepped aside so I could enter. "You've got 3 military credit accounts open in your name. 2, I'd expect. The third? That one's fishy as hell." I sat down at the kitchen table while he opened a beat-up laptop covered in duct tape and stickers that said things like, "I know your secrets," and "The IRS is my love language." He started clicking through spreadsheets and bank records like a surgeon prepping for surgery. "Tell me what you know," Dante said. I laid it out as clean as I could. How Fallon had asked for some paperwork during my last deployment, claiming Mom needed it for life insurance updates. How I'd sent a few scanned documents, my DD-214, a copy of my ID, assuming it was nothing. "And now you've got a ghost credit line," Dante finished for me. "Opened through a military-friendly fintech company in Utah tied to a business startup fund. Guess whose name is on the other end of the transfer?" "Fallon," I said flatly. He spun the laptop to show me a document with my name and social security number tied to a $180,000 loan application filed 10 months ago. The recipient account? An LLC owned by Fallon Blake, doing business as Radiant Arc, her ridiculous tech company. "She forged your signature," Dante added. "Sloppy job, honestly. The digital is mismatched and the timestamps don't align. Amateur hour." I stared at the screen, not surprised, not even angry anymore, just cold. "She's not that dumb," I said. "She must have had help." "Oh, she did," Dante nodded. "This kind of fraud doesn't go through without an internal enabler. Someone at the funding institution looked the other way. Might have been bribed, might have been blackmailed. Either way, they left footprints." Miles leaned against the fridge, arms crossed. "So, what's next?" "I keep digging," Dante said. "But you, Lisa, you need to secure your military records and file a flag with the VA and DOD. Once this is reported, she won't be able to use your credentials for anything else." I nodded slowly. "Can she go to jail for this?" Dante shrugged. "Depends. Wire fraud? Yes. Identity theft tied to federal military status? Definitely." Then he looked at me directly. "The bigger question is, do you want this to be criminal or civil?" I didn't answer right away. I stared at the laptop screen. My name. Hijacked. Used to fund Fallon's fairy tale career. My whole life, she'd found ways to rewrite the narrative. But this time she used the government to do it. "She thinks no one's going to believe me," I said. "She thinks if she spins it right, I'll look unstable, dramatic, angry, all the things the world expects a younger sister to be." "She's banking on silence," Dante said. "And my military discipline keeping me quiet?" "She's betting wrong," I replied. Miles handed me a glass of water. "This isn't just a family drama anymore," he said. "This is federal. If you're serious about going forward, we document everything. You write your statement tonight, and Dante starts tracking every dime she touched in your name." I nodded again. The pain in my jaw was a dull throb now, manageable. Dante clicked something on his keyboard. "Welcome to the part where the quiet sister fights back." I didn't smile, not yet. But I was already thinking about how I'd wear my uniform the next time I saw Fallon's face. We spent the rest of the night at Miles's place. I was sitting on the floor in sweatpants and a hoodie, surrounded by open folders and sticky notes, like I was back in basic training prepping for a tactical op, except this time the target wasn't overseas. She was my sister. And the mission wasn't combat. It was exposure. Miles had cleared his dining table and turned it into a makeshift evidence board. He was sorting printed emails, while I tried to piece together every interaction I'd had with Fallon over the last 2 years. Dates, phone calls, times she asked for simple favors, anything that felt off in hindsight. We weren't close. That made the list mercifully short, but even a short list came with heavy weight. I held up a printed email from Fallon. Subject line, "Hey, quick thing." It was dated 11 months ago. I was stationed in Okinawa at the time. She'd asked if I could resend my LES, leave and earnings statement, because she needed to compare something for taxes. I remembered glancing at it for 2 seconds before forwarding it over mid-mission without thinking. That tiny click just opened a $100,000 door under my name. "You weren't just tricked," Miles said, glancing at the header. "You were operationally targeted. She timed this while you were out of country." "Oh, she waited until I couldn't ask questions," I muttered. "She counted on me being too distracted, too obedient, to look twice." Dante FaceTimed in around 1:30 a.m., surrounded by 2 monitors and 3 empty Red Bull cans. "You guys still awake?" he said, like he didn't already know. He shared his screen. A spreadsheet popped up, color-coded like a science fair project. Only instead of data sets and conclusions, it was my name tied to money I never touched. He stretched his neck and said, "Here's the real kicker. She didn't just borrow your identity to get the loan. She used it as a security blanket for her investors. Told 2 angel funders she had military backing, showed them your credentials to build credibility." "She sold me as part of her brand," I said, blinking. "Worse," he replied. "She commodified your service." There's a pitch deck in a Google Drive I found through her assistant's email. It's got a slide that says, quote, "Built by women, backed by Marines." Miles looked like he was about to choke. "That's not just disgusting," he said. "That's stolen valor." I set the folder down and stood up. I needed air. She hadn't just punched me in the face. She'd wrapped herself in my uniform while doing it. Outside, the air was cold and dry. I stood barefoot in the backyard, staring at Miles's old grill like it might give me answers. I could hear them still talking inside, low voices, legal terms, financial lingo. It all felt like static. There was no playbook for this, no field guide, just instincts. I remembered Fallon's face at the party. Polished, practiced, manufactured. And for the first time, I saw what everyone else saw. Not a sister, a brand. She didn't see me as family. She saw me as a tool, a costume, a useful piece of government-issued legitimacy. And she thought I wouldn't figure it out. Back inside, I grabbed a notepad and started writing. I listed every piece of documentation we had so far: the forged loan, the false veteran-backed claim, the stolen financial identity, the public assault, the family's silent complicity. I wasn't just a victim of her fraud. I was being erased by her narrative. One version of this story had already been told, her version. Clean, inspiring, successful. But there was another version. Mine. Dante emailed over a digital folder titled OPFEV Fallon/Stage/1. Inside were 6 documents I needed to submit to begin the civilian and military investigation processes: whistleblower affidavit, identity protection claims, evidence chain forms, all pre-filled, templated, ready. All I had to do was sign and forward. Miles handed me a pen without saying a word. I signed every form like I was marking a target. "This doesn't guarantee anything," he warned. "It'll take time. It'll be messy. And once this hits the system, Fallon's not going to play nice anymore." "She already didn't," I said. "This just makes it official." He nodded, then tossed me a USB. "That's your backup drive. Dante's encrypted it with everything we've got so far. Don't lose it." "Got it," I said. Miles turned off the kitchen light and started cleaning up the paperwork. I sat in the dark for a while, listening to the buzz of the refrigerator and the soft click of the ceiling fan. I wasn't tired, but my body was crashing. I knew what came next wasn't going to be easy. But it didn't have to be easy. It just had to be right. By morning, I had 4 unread emails from Dante, a sore jaw, and exactly 0 hours of sleep. Miles was already up, in uniform, coffee in hand, like he hadn't just spent the last 10 hours knee-deep in identity theft and family betrayal. He handed me a mug and nodded toward the laptop on the counter. "She's up early," he said. I opened the link he sent. Fallon had posted a selfie from her car, full glam, fake casual, with a caption that read, "Grateful for strong women who never let drama slow them down. Eyes on the mission." It had 2,000 likes, and a comment from my mom. "Proud of you, baby girl. Keep shining." I didn't even feel anger at that point, just calculation. She's trying to get ahead of it, Miles said. She's trying to paint me as the storm, I replied. So when it hits, she can act like she's surviving me. Dante called at 8:22 a.m. sharp. I've got something you're going to want to see. He shared his screen again, this time a bank ledger. He highlighted 4 transactions over the course of 3 months, each labeled Operations Consulting, paid out to a shell company in Delaware owned by Fallon, but linked directly to the startup account tied to my military-backed loan. She's laundering the money, Dante said. She's moving it through fake vendors, then cashing it out personally. It's classic small-scale fraud. Looks like nothing, but legally, it's devastating. He clicked another tab. A document appeared, a list of grant applications Fallon had submitted for veteran-owned business incentives. All of them cited her co-founder with military credentials. Me. I sat back in my chair. So she's not just using my name to get loans. She's getting grants, awards, press coverage, and keynote invitations, Dante added. She's booked for the Women in Federal Innovation Conference next month. She's on the flyer with a headline that reads, From Deployment to Disruption, How Fallon Blake Built an Empire with Military Discipline. She never deployed, I said through clenched teeth. She never even visited a base. It was more than exploitation now, Miles said. It was impersonation. And it was public. She wasn't just hijacking my record. She was performing it for applause. I pulled out the file of old photos I had from my deployments. Me in uniform, me with my unit, training, fieldwork, holidays, sandstorms, things I never thought I'd need to prove. Now they were about to become Exhibit A. Any word from the VA side? I asked Dante. They flagged the profile last night after you submitted your protection request, he said. You're clean now. No one can pull your military records without clearance. Good, I said, because she's about to try. Miles opened his laptop. We need a timeline. If she's filed anything under Lisa's name that we can backtrack, we create a master record, prove the fraud pattern. So we started building it. We printed every digital document, laid them out in order. The email where Fallon asked for my LES, the loan application she filed, the bank transfers to her shell company, the press release quoting her military upbringing, the keynote invite, her LinkedIn post claiming she transitioned from logistics to leadership during service. Every piece of it stacked up into a picture so clear, it was almost boring. She didn't even try to cover her tracks. Because why would she? She didn't think anyone would come looking. By noon, Dante had traced the shell company back to Fallon's personal bank account. She filed the EIN number using your mom's address, he said. So even if this blows up, she can claim it was a family mix-up. Throw your mom under the bus. Classic Fallon, I muttered. Build the fire. Hand someone else the match. Miles closed his laptop. So what's our angle? Go public? Go legal? Both, I said, but not yet. They looked at me. I stood up, walked to the counter, picked up my phone. I opened my camera roll, scrolled through pictures from my last tour, faces of people I trusted, people who'd earned their titles, who'd bled for their patches. I stopped at one, me in dusty camis, squinting under the sun, no makeup, holding a care package with Fallon's handwriting on it. She used to send me snacks and notes like she actually gave a damn. Now I realized she wasn't supporting me. She was gathering materials for her brand. I looked at Miles. If we're doing this, we're not just making her answer to me. I met his eyes. We're making her answer to every vet she lied to. Miles nodded. Dante raised his coffee mug. To justice. I didn't toast. I didn't smile. But I started packing the evidence folder into a military-grade case I'd brought home from Afghanistan. Because the thing about serving in uniform, once you know how to go to war, you don't need permission to do it again. I didn't even finish zipping up the case when my phone buzzed. Blocked number, new voicemail, no transcript. I hit play, already bracing. Lisa, it's Mom. I don't know what this nonsense is you're stirring up, but if you think dragging Fallon into some drama is going to fix your image issues, think again. She's doing real work and doesn't need this kind of stress. Whatever you're upset about, just handle it quietly like adults do. Don't embarrass the family. No, are you okay? No mention of Fallon dragging me out by my hair in front of 70 people. I deleted the message without responding. She's not stupid, I told Miles, who was across the kitchen reviewing the folder. She's covering herself in polite threats now. She's also panicking, he said. This is the part where they realize they don't control the story anymore. Miles had a dry way of putting things. I appreciated that. It kept me from spiraling. We spent the rest of the morning consolidating what Dante had sent: phone records, social media captures, transaction receipts, and most importantly, Fallon's forged digital signature. Dante had a contact-run biometric comparison on the electronic application and confirmed that the e-signature data didn't match anything tied to my military ID. It was a copy-paste job. They'd even compared the rhythm of the stylus strokes. Cheap, lazy, desperate. She didn't just borrow your identity, Dante said. She practically photocopied it and hoped no one would look too closely. It felt surreal how casual it all sounded, like we were planning a home renovation, not taking apart someone's criminal operation built on blood relation and tech conferences. Miles looked up from the documents. We should talk to someone on her team, someone inside. She won't let anyone talk freely, I said. She controls people with money and optics. Everyone working for her is either under NDA or neck deep in her image. Then we find someone who left, he replied. Disgruntled, ghosted, fired. The one person who doesn't owe her anything anymore. Turns out that wasn't hard. A quick search pulled up a podcast episode from 6 months ago featuring Fallon's former head of operations, a woman named Clara Dwyer. She lasted 8 months at Radiant Arc before resigning abruptly. No press release, no handoff, nothing. She vanished from Fallon's public narrative like she never existed. But her LinkedIn bio said otherwise. An operational lead at Radiant Arc, exited for ethical reasons. We messaged her anonymously through a burner account. She replied in 20 minutes. Meet me in person. I don't talk online about that woman. That woman. I liked her already. We met Clara at a neutral cafe halfway between Boulder and Denver. She wore a denim jacket, no makeup, and looked 10 years older than her actual age. The second she saw me, she blinked. You're the sister. Unfortunately, I said, sliding into the booth. We need to talk. She listened, arms crossed, as I laid out what we'd found. How Fallon had used my military identity, faked loan applications, staged grant materials, and sold herself as a veteran-aligned startup founder. She used your face in 2 different pitch decks, Clara said. Did you know that? No, I replied. She called you her combat inspiration in one, said she started the company while writing letters to you overseas. I laughed. I couldn't help it. She barely returned my texts. Clara pulled a flash drive from her bag and placed it on the table. This has every internal email thread I saved before I left. Contracts, edits to press kits, even an early draft of her conference speech, where she claimed your dad was a Navy SEAL. He sold insurance, I muttered. She told investors the startup was built on discipline, sacrifice, and battlefield insights. She built it on lies and stolen valor, Miles said. But now we have someone who saw it from the inside. Clara sipped her coffee and leaned forward. You want to take her down? I didn't flinch. I want her off my name. Then you're going to need more than digital receipts and bruises, she said. You need a witness on paper, someone to say, I was there, and this is what she did. I didn't blink. Clara paused, thinking. I'll sign it, she said. But if this gets loud, I'm not running PR. I lost too much time cleaning up her messes already. You won't have to, I said. This isn't her show anymore. Back at Miles's place, I scanned Clara's flash drive while Dante monitored traffic to Fallon's startup site. Interest was down. Engagement was slowing. The sharks are circling, but quietly, Dante said. She's not going to crash overnight, he warned. People like her know how to pivot. No, I said. She's not pivoting. She's spiraling. Big difference. I opened one of the pitch decks Clara had given us. On slide 7, there was a photo of Fallon and me at my basic training graduation. She'd photoshopped herself in uniform next to me, smiling. She used my moment, my work, my sweat, and dressed herself in it like a costume. I saved the image. Game on, I said. The first thing I did after reviewing Clara's files was book a domain name. At valortheft.com. It cost me $9 and gave me a place to post the truth, where no PR agency could spin it into a branding moment. The site was basic, black text, white background, no design. But that was the point. I uploaded the key documents, Fallon's fake loan application with my military ID, the forged veteran grant pitch, the email threads Clara had saved, and a side-by-side comparison of my real deployment history against Fallon's fabricated version. I added one sentence at the top. This is what it looks like when a civilian sister steals from a servicewoman and calls it empowerment. It went live at 1:07 p.m. By 1:35, it had 3,000 hits. By midnight, it was trending on Reddit. Should thread title. Tech founder fakes military ties for clout. Fallon responded. Not directly, of course. She posted a story on Instagram, a black screen with white text. Jealousy is loud, truth is quiet. The song, Survivor, played underneath it, subtle as a car crash. Dante called immediately. She's going into damage control. Miles sat down across from me, arms folded. You still sure you want to go loud? I didn't hesitate. I wasn't quiet when I took an oath, I said. I'm not starting now. The next morning, Fallon's attorney sent me a cease and desist. It accused me of harassment, defamation, and unauthorized use of proprietary brand content. Miles read it twice, rolled his eyes, and emailed a 3-line response. Happy to comply once your client retracts all false military claims and returns every dollar fraudulently acquired. Until then, buckle up. I wanted to frame it. We expected silence after that. Instead, Fallon dropped her version of the story, an 8-minute YouTube video titled My Truth. It opened with soft piano music. Fallon in a gray turtleneck, hair loose, makeup barely there, but very much there. She looked straight into the camera with watery eyes and said, I've always believed in women supporting women. That includes my sister Lisa, who has struggled with adjusting to life after service. It breaks my heart that she's chosen to lash out during a difficult time. I love her deeply, and I hope she gets the help she needs. I almost threw my laptop across the room. She's framing you as unstable, Miles muttered. Classic strategy. Shift the focus from what she did to how you're reacting. Even the damn piano music, I said, pacing. She's turning a felony into a Lifetime movie. Dante jumped in. We respond with data, not drama. Let her perform. We post receipts. So we did, one by one. Scanned originals, time-stamped PDFs, the loan data, the grant approvals, the doctored photos. And just for kicks, a video clip from my promotion ceremony, with Fallon sitting in the audience, checking her phone, looking bored out of her mind. That one got 100,000 views in an hour. Then something we hadn't planned for happened. Other women, real veterans, started messaging me. Some had worked in tech, some hadn't, but a few had crossed paths with Fallon. One woman, Kara, said Fallon pitched her an all-female veteran coding boot camp and ghosted her after stealing her curriculum outline. Another said she gave Fallon access to her veteran nonprofit's email list for collaboration, and later found out Fallon had cold emailed her donors for her own startup. She's been doing this for years, Kara wrote. Everyone thought she was just ambitious. Turns out she's a thief. I asked if they'd go on record. They all said yes. So I created a submission section on the site, titled it, If She Used You, Speak Up. Within 24 hours, I had 15 testimonies. 2 were anonymous. 1 came from a former Army intelligence officer. They all painted the same picture. Fallon wasn't just stealing valor. She was building a brand on the backs of women who actually served. Miles read the latest one and whistled. She's not just toast. She's a bonfire now. I leaned back in my chair, exhausted, but sharper than I'd felt in months. This isn't about me anymore, I said. It started with her using my face. But the second she did it to others, she turned it into something else. Dante agreed. She didn't just poke the bear. She walked into a whole den with a selfie stick. The final touch came from Kara. She sent a folder titled, Fallon's Real Resume. It revealed Fallon had padded her background with made-up consulting work for the DoD and a fabricated internship at a veterans advocacy firm that never existed. Miles stared at the screen. Your sister didn't fake one thing. She faked an identity. I didn't say anything. I just uploaded it to the site. Later that night, I booked a hotel room under an alias in downtown Colorado Springs. Nothing fancy, just clean, quiet, and nowhere near Fallon's orbit. I needed space to operate, without worrying about being followed, photographed, or ambushed by another family voicemail. I sat on the bed with my laptop, watching the analytics for ChimeValorTheft.com tick upward like a second heartbeat. People weren't just reading. They were downloading, sharing, asking questions. Screenshots were popping up on Twitter. Reddit was alive with timelines and amateur sleuths. One guy even color-coded Fallon's pitch decks and annotated them like a criminal case file. That was when I got the email. From Elise Navarro. Subject line, we need to talk. Off the record at first. I didn't know her personally, but I'd read her work. Former war correspondent turned independent investigative journalist. She didn't do fluff. She didn't do favors. Her last piece exposed a senator's ties to a shady veteran nonprofit and led to an FBI audit. If she was sniffing around this, it meant one thing. Fallon had crossed a line too big for PR spin to contain. I replied with 3 words. Let's talk now. 10 minutes later, we were on a secure video call. Elise wore a hoodie, earbuds in, speaking from what looked like a converted garage. Her voice was calm, direct. "I've followed Fallon Blake for a while," she said. "Her eyes never smelled right. Too many polished surfaces, too few fingerprints. Your site blew it wide open." I nodded. "She's been using my military service for credibility, and now we know I'm not the only one." "I want to write this," Elise said. "A long-form piece. Documented, verified, fully sourced. Not just a scandal, Lisa. A story about what happens when a woman builds power on borrowed trauma." I leaned back. "What do you need?" "Access to your files, interviews with anyone who'll go on record, and your voice, unfiltered." She wasn't asking for pity. She was building a case. "I don't want a revenge piece," I said. "I want a reckoning." Elise smiled slightly. "That's exactly what I write. I shared everything. The forged documents, the stolen identity, the veterans Fallon ghosted, the internal emails Clara had saved. I gave Elise full permission to use my name, my face, my record. If she wanted to wear my service like armor, I said, she's going to feel the weight of it." The article dropped 3 days later. A title, "The Sister She Erased, Inside Fallon Blake's Stolen Valor Empire." It was brutal, meticulous, impossible to ignore. Elise didn't just tell my story, she told ours. She wove in the experiences of other veterans, linked screenshots to Fallon's fabricated resume, included expert commentary from a JAG attorney who said, flat out, "This is a prosecutable offense, full stop." The piece went viral within hours. Fallon's publicist released a half-hearted statement. "We are reviewing the allegations." But it was too late. The tech conference dropped her keynote. One of her angel investors issued a refund demand. A LinkedIn post from a former intern went viral. I asked why she had military dog tags in her office. She said, "Marketing." I quit the next day. For the first time in her curated life, Fallon Blake. Shut up. No more piano music, no more gray sweaters, no more My Truth speeches. She was bleeding digital credibility by the minute. Dante, meanwhile, forwarded me a new file. It showed a massive withdrawal from Fallon's business account, nearly $60,000, wired offshore to an account in the Cayman Islands. "She's moving money," he said. "She thinks this is going to court." Miles sighed, "Which means she's guilty and arrogant. That's the worst combination." "What happens now?" I asked. Miles didn't sugarcoat it. "She's going to try to play the victim harder than ever. Expect an op-ed, maybe a podcast interview. She'll probably throw you under the bus again. She has no shame." "I'm not scared of shame," I said. "I'm just tired of carrying hers." That night I got a text from an unknown number, a photo. Fallon standing outside a courthouse, arm in arm with my mom.
What's up, Sheelan?
A family first, even when they try to destroy you. I didn't reply. Instead, I sent the image to Elise. She added it as an update to the article, with one sentence. No comment was offered by Fallon Blake or her mother. By morning, the photo had become a meme. That's the thing about control. When you build your life by staging every moment, the truth doesn't just crack it open. It shatters the whole damn stage. Fallon wasn't being attacked. She was finally being seen. And I was finally being heard on my own terms. I could hear the fire alarms going off in Fallon's camp from a mile away. And I wasn't even watching the news. It was all happening online, in real time, through comment threads, blog reposts, and screen-recorded TikToks of her now infamous My Truth video being torn apart line by military spouses and actual veterans. What started as a controlled narrative had unraveled into a full-on exposure campaign. Then Elise called. "I just got a message from one of Fallon's early investors," she said, her voice sharper than usual. "He wants to talk, privately, off record, for now." The investor's name was Gerald Miles, a low-profile but wealthy tech backer known for investing in startups that looked socially progressive and female-forward. Fallon had been his trophy founder. Clean image, good teeth, storybook background. And now, an unraveling mess. He wouldn't meet in public. So I flew out to a neutral space in Santa Fe with Elise. We sat in a corner booth of a half-empty tapas bar. Gerald, tan turtleneck, 2 white teeth, sipping mineral water, scanned the room like he was expecting spies. "I don't want my name in your article," he said immediately. "I just want you to understand that we were sold a story." "No one forced you to believe it," Elise replied flatly. He winced. "Look, she brought paperwork, photos, a whole slideshow about her sister, how you inspired the company's culture, how your discipline as a Marine shaped her leadership." I stared at him. "Did you ever talk to me?" "Of course not," he said, like that was irrelevant. "We don't vet families. We fund founders." "And when did you start suspecting something was off?" Elise asked. Gerald hesitated. After the second round of investment, she got sloppy, claimed to have spoken at a DoD Innovation Summit. One of our partners used to work in defense. He couldn't find a single record of it. "So why stay quiet?" I asked. He looked genuinely uncomfortable. "We thought she'd clean it up. You have to understand, she was still a good investment." "Until now," I said. He didn't blink. "You helped her build this." "I didn't know," he said. "You didn't ask to know." He didn't deny it. Before he left, he slid a small folder across the table. "These are internal investor updates, financials, board letters, claims about government partnerships. A lot of it probably falls under wire fraud, if you can prove she knowingly lied." "We can," I said. Back at the hotel, Elise and I spread the documents on the floor. The more we read, the worse it got. Fallon had inflated user metrics, cited fake veteran advisors, even claimed to have pending contracts with the Department of Homeland Security. All lies, all traceable. Elise pulled out her recorder again. "She really thought you were going to stay quiet forever, huh?" "She forgot I was trained to handle conflict," I said. "She mistook restraint for weakness." The next move came from Fallon's legal team. Predictable, arrogant, doomed. They filed a Kishite restraining order against me, citing emotional distress and online harassment. Problem was, they did it in the same Colorado district where Dante had already filed my identity fraud case. That meant court records became public, and suddenly every media outlet had access to the full story. Elise didn't even have to push it anymore. Major news channels picked it up. A headline: "Marine exposes sister's fraudulent tech empire." It was the kind of story you couldn't make up. Fallon's face was on the news, but not the way she wanted. I watched a clip of her ducking cameras outside her office, wearing sunglasses and a hoodie, gripping my mom's arm like a child. My mom, who once laughed while Fallon humiliated me in front of a crowd, now looked like she'd aged 10 years in a week. Dante called that night. "She's cooked," he said. "IRS is sniffing. One of her shell companies just flagged in an audit this week. If she doesn't settle, they'll press charges. It's not just your name anymore, it's a dozen others. She built a business on military status, and now that status is a liability." "What about the restraining order?" I asked. "Dismissed," he said. "Didn't even make it past the first judge. Fallon's lawyer bailed mid-hearing." Miles emailed me a screen grab of the court's ruling. Header: "And case closed. Fraudulent claims dismissed." And yet, none of that hit me like the next email did. It was from a girl named Brianna, a sophomore in ROTC at a community college in Arkansas. She wrote, "I saw your story. My sisters always made fun of me for wanting to serve, said it's a waste of time, but after watching how you fought back, I finally applied for officer candidate school. Thank you for showing me how to own my path, even when your family doesn't understand it." I read it twice, then again. Fallon spent years building a version of my life she could wear like a brand. She took my discipline, my image, my name, and bent them into something fake. But the real thing, the real story, spoke louder than anything she ever fabricated, and it couldn't be buried anymore. The morning Fallon walked into the mediation room, she looked like she still thought she was the main character. Tailored blazer, soft curls, lips pursed like she'd just walked off a magazine shoot. If the pressure had cracked her, she'd patched the leaks in designer concealer. Her attorney, a new one this time, sat beside her, flipping through a binder like this was just another Tuesday. Miles was on my left, calm, lethal. Across the table sat the court mediator, trying very hard to pretend she wasn't sitting in a live grenade of family dysfunction. They opened with pleasantries. I didn't bother responding. Fallon finally looked at me. She said, like we were sipping wine, "I hope we can resolve this with civility." Miles leaned forward. "Then let's start with accountability." The mediator asked us both to state our positions. Fallon launched into a speech about how the situation had spiraled, had been misunderstood, and how, Internal miscommunications with junior staff may have led to overstated associations with military institutions. I didn't say a word. Miles slid a document across the table. This is the grant form where your client falsely listed Lisa Blake as a company co-founder with military credentials. We also have voice memos of her describing Lisa's deployments to potential investors, as if they were her own. Fallon waved a hand like she was swatting a mosquito. And that was a narrative device. It was an identity theft, I said flatly. She looked at me like I'd just broken some unspoken sister code. The mediator tried to regain control. Let's keep the conversation productive, Miss Blake, she said, turning to Fallon. Are you willing to acknowledge any factual inaccuracies in your business filings? I'm willing to acknowledge that my team handled certain details. Aggressively, Fallon replied. That was her line. Aggressively. Like she was marketing vitamins too hard. Miles passed her another document. This is a deposition from Clara Dwyer, your former COO. She directly stated that you requested she alter Lisa's military records for pitch decks. That's not aggressive, that's criminal. Fallon's eyes narrowed. Clara was let go for performance issues. She resigned, I said, after refusing to fake your image one more time. For a moment, Fallon just stared at me. Then she snapped. And you always made everything about yourself, she said quietly. You're impersonating me, and you're obsessed with me. She leaned forward. That's what this is. I need full sense. You've always been second best. And now you're using your uniform to rewrite the script. You want people to think you're a hero? Newsflash. Your service doesn't make you interesting. It makes you tired. The room went still. Miles pressed a small button under the table, a sound recorder. Legally approved, since the mediation was part of the legal proceedings. Fallon had just admitted, on the record, that she saw my military service as nothing more than a marketing inconvenience. The mediator looked like she wanted to sink into the floor. Fallon, realizing what she said, tried to backpedal. I didn't mean... You said exactly what you meant, I said. Miles folded his hands. As this recording, combined with the grant documents and Clara's testimony, gives us more than enough to proceed with formal charges. But if your client wants to settle, this is her last chance. Fallon's lawyer looked ready to bolt. She hissed at him under her breath, then glared at me. You really think ruining me fixes you? No, I said, but it stops you from doing this to anyone else. That's what she never understood. This wasn't about ego, it was about truth. I'd watched her fabricate a version of me the world applauded. Strong, but non-threatening. Veteran, but Instagram-friendly. Obedient, useful. The minute I told my actual story, flawed, blunt, unapologetic, she panicked. Because it exposed her carefully curated fiction for what it was, a costume built from my scars. We left the mediation with a signed agreement to proceed to civil trial, unless settlement terms were reached within 5 business days. Miles said it was the legal version of a slow countdown. Fallon's brand was imploding by the hour, and now the clock was public. Outside the courthouse, a small group of local reporters waited. One asked if I wanted to make a statement. I didn't say much, just one sentence. I don't speak for all servicewomen, but I won't let someone fake our story, ever again. It aired that night. It wasn't flashy, but it hit hard. Real always does. Fallon didn't respond publicly, but her lawyer sent over a settlement draft 2 days later. It wasn't enough. Just under $120K, a non-disclosure agreement, and a vague admission of misuse of branding. They wanted to sweep it under the rug, call it a misunderstanding. But I wasn't cleaning up after her anymore. Instead, I called Miles and said 2 words. Yeah, we go. So we filed. The civil suit dropped online the next day, and thanks to Elisa's ongoing coverage, it spread fast. I didn't even need to do a press tour. People were already quoting excerpts from the court filing like it was a Netflix doc script. Fallon's attorney tried one last push, claiming I was maliciously exaggerating the scope of the damage. But screenshots don't lie. Neither do bank statements. And then it happened. One of Fallon's old investors released a public statement distancing his firm from any individual who falsified military associations for financial gain. His name wasn't even in our suit. He just didn't want to get caught in the fallout. From there, the dominoes fell fast. The Women in Federal Innovation Conference officially removed Fallon's name from their website. Her company, Radiant Arc, locked their LinkedIn page. The co-founder she'd brought on for optics? He scrubbed her name from his resume. She wasn't just being canceled. She was being erased, piece by piece, like someone cleaning graffiti off a memorial wall. The same day, Fallon's glossy headshot disappeared from the advisory board of a military support nonprofit she'd donated to for years. Their new homepage banner read, "We honor authentic service, always." And yet, even after all that, the part that hit me hardest came in the form of an email. From Mom. Subject: "Can we please move on?" No greeting, no name, just, "Lisa, I know things have gotten out of hand, but I'm asking you, please don't destroy your sister. We're family. Mistakes were made, yes, but she was just trying to build something. She didn't mean to hurt you, and airing everything like this, it's embarrassing. Please think about the bigger picture. Mom." I stared at the screen like it might catch fire. Not a single mention of what Fallon did, no apology, no ownership. Just another desperate plea to keep everything pretty from the outside. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a new browser tab and typed in Elisa's article again. Read every paragraph. Scrolled through the comments. That's where I saw it. Someone had posted a clip, Fallon on a panel years ago, back when she was first speaking at conferences. It was a Q&A session. A woman in the audience had asked, "Where did your leadership style come from?" Fallon smiled wide and said, "My sister. She served in the military, and watching her transform into this strong, decisive woman made me believe I could lead too. She's a warrior. I just borrowed her backbone." I played it again. "I just borrowed her backbone. That wasn't admiration. That was my theft, wrapped in a compliment." I remembered being 22, fresh out of boot camp, FaceTiming Fallon from a cot, sand in my boots, sunburn on my neck, telling her how tired I was, how hard it was to be taken seriously. She told me, "Just keep your mouth shut and do what they expect. That's what people respect." And now, here she was, spouting words like inspiration and empowerment, like she hadn't once laughed when I cried during my first deployment. She borrowed my backbone. She'd hollowed out my story and wore it as a costume until it no longer fit. And now that I was telling it myself, the world was realizing just how artificial her version had always been. I forwarded my mom's email to Miles and typed one line beneath it. No response, but I'm keeping this for trial. He replied with a thumbs up and one sentence. Smart. Juries love a good guilt trip from a complicit parent. That weekend, Dante sent me a spreadsheet. It showed the public revenue loss of Fallon's company over the last 30 days. 92% of contracts canceled. Website traffic down 85%. Social engagement flatlined. "This is what empire collapse looks like," he wrote. "No explosions, just a quiet, permanent disappearance." I closed my laptop, then I reached for my phone and called Kara, the ROTC girl who'd messaged me weeks earlier. We talked for almost an hour. She asked me what it was like, standing up to family. I told her the truth. "It's lonely," I said. "But being used, that's lonelier." Yeah. I stood outside the courthouse with Miles and Dante, watching Fallon's legal team scramble in slow motion. 3 briefcases, fake confidence, the kind of rehearsed posture you only see in people who know they're about to lose, but still have to put on a show. Fallon wasn't with them. She wasn't required to appear today. But I was, and I wanted to be here. The civil trial wasn't publicized the way her crash had been online, but the courtroom was packed anyway. Veterans, students, 2 tech journalists I recognized, even Clara, sitting quietly in the back row with a pen and notebook, Elise beside her. She wasn't covering this for a new article. She was here as a witness to the impact. The judge was a middle-aged woman with a military pin on her robe. The irony wasn't lost on me. She didn't smile, didn't nod, just read the docket like it was a grocery list, then said flatly, "Let's get to it." Our side began with Miles presenting the forged documents, screenshots, financial discrepancies, and Fallon's direct statements from mediation. The judge listened with the kind of face you'd expect from someone who's heard 3 decades of excuses. She asked pointed questions. She took notes. When Clara took the stand, she didn't cry. She didn't posture. She laid out everything Fallon had asked of her, every moment she'd been told to manipulate my service record. Every time Fallon used my military rank to pitch a story of sacrifice to investors. She wasn't inspired by her sister, Clara said. She was profiting off her. Fallon's lawyer tried to poke holes, suggested Clara was a disgruntled ex-employee. Clara didn't flinch. I left because I have a conscience, she said. She stayed because she doesn't. Next came Kara, the ROTC student. Her statement wasn't legally necessary, but we'd petitioned to include it as a character reference. She told the court how Fallon's story made her feel like a fraud for not being public-facing enough, how it fed the idea that women in uniform had to be polished, photogenic, and startup adjacent to be taken seriously. Lisa reminded me that the uniform speaks for itself, Kara said, and no one gets to put it on metaphorically while someone else earns it the hard way. Fallon's attorney objected. The judge overruled. Then came me. I didn't read from a script. I stood up, took a breath, and told the truth. I told them about the night at the award party, the punch, the hair, the silence that followed. I told them about Fallon using my name for federal benefits, about the debt notices I hadn't even seen until Miles pulled them from my credit report. I described what it felt like to watch my life become a costume someone else wore better. I didn't come here for revenge, I said. I came here for accountability. Fallon Blake used my identity as a prop. She sold my service like it was merchandise. And when I finally said no, she called me unstable. I could feel the room tighten. I'm not unstable, I said. I'm just not quiet anymore. The judge called for a short recess. When we returned, Fallon's side didn't present much. They couldn't. They had no paper trail to dispute the facts, and Fallon had already buried herself on record. Her attorney mumbled something about miscommunication and overstated narratives. The judge didn't blink. Before closing arguments, she looked directly at me. You wear your uniform with more integrity than some wear their entire lives, she said. Thank you for reminding this courtroom and your country what service actually means. Then came the ruling. Fallon Blake was found liable for civil identity theft, defamation, and misappropriation of military likeness for financial gain. And damages awarded $280,000. Not a fortune, but enough to make every future investor think twice. Fallon didn't show her face after that. Not in the hallway, not in the parking lot, not online. Her company went officially dark 2 weeks later. The website died, the Instagram disappeared, LinkedIn said, no results. Dante sent me a link to the archived page with a single subject line. Ghosted. I didn't celebrate. I just exhaled. That night, I sat alone at a diner 2 blocks from the courthouse. Coffee in front of me, jacket draped over the booth, dress shoes kicked off under the table. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was something close. A woman approached, maybe mid-30s, wearing a navy sweatshirt and a cautious smile. Are you the sister, the Marine? I nodded. She gave a half shrug. Thank you for speaking up, for all of us. She didn't linger, didn't ask for a photo. Just left a $10 bill beside my coffee and walked away. I didn't even catch her name. Didn't need to. That's what justice looks like sometimes. Quiet, ordinary. No medals, no speeches. Just someone walking away lighter because you finally told the truth. The first thing I did when I got back to base was change out of civilian clothes and walk the perimeter of the armory at dawn. No earbuds, no distractions. Just gravel under my boots, the rising sun behind me, and the smell of something real. Dirt, sweat, discipline. I wasn't there for ceremony. I was there because this was the one place where nobody needed a backstory to respect you. You earned your name here, daily. Command had cleared me for full reinstatement. Turns out, fighting a civil lawsuit against a sister impersonating you doesn't disqualify you from serving, especially when you win. My CO called me into his office, shut the door, and said, Blake, most people leave their family drama at home. You managed to put yours in a courtroom and still keep your record spotless. Not easy. But you handled it like a Marine. I didn't smile, just said, Thank you, sir. He nodded. The recruiting office could use someone like you. I raised an eyebrow. You want me to push pamphlets? Not exactly, he said. I want you to talk. Young women walk into that office every day, not knowing whether they belong. I want you to show them what it looks like when someone walks in with nothing and walks out with purpose. It didn't feel like a demotion. It felt like a mission. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of a class of ROTC juniors at a community college near Fort Carson. No PowerPoint, no flag waving, just me, in uniform, arms crossed, telling them what Fallon never understood. You don't need to be the face of something to be the heart of it. I told them she made money off my service, got applause for it. But she never got what really mattered. A girl in the back raised her hand. "What's that?" I looked straight at her. Respect, from people who actually know what it costs to earn it. They didn't clap. They didn't cry. But nobody looked away. That was enough. Later, Miles sent me a text. "Faye just flagged Fallon's name in a fraud watch list. She's officially radioactive. IRS is circling too. Looks like she'll be busy with lawyers for the next few years." I replied, "She wanted my status. Now she can have my consequences." I didn't check for a response. I didn't need one. I never spoke to Fallon again. There was no dramatic final call, no apology email, no "I didn't know what I was doing" voicemail. Just silence. She vanished the same way she had entered, through illusion, a puff of credibility evaporating under the weight of real scrutiny. But I did get one more message. Not from Fallon, not from my mom. From Aunt Clara. It came as a handwritten letter, postmarked from Seattle, no return address. Inside were 2 pages, carefully worded, carefully written. "Lisa, I wanted to say this face to face, but I knew you'd never want that. So I'm writing instead. You didn't deserve what happened to you. I helped her because I was scared. I thought Fallon was invincible and that if I didn't do what she asked, I'd lose everything. My job, my standing, my references. But I see now that I lost something far worse, my integrity. I hope someday you'll believe I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. Just wanted you to know the truth finally lives where it belongs, in your hands. Respectfully, Clara." I folded the letter back into the envelope. Did I forgive her? Not entirely, not yet. But something about her saying, "You didn't deserve it," out loud, on paper, meant more than all the digital noise combined. It didn't heal everything, but it helped unclean the wound. Months passed. Fallon's name disappeared from news cycles. Investors quietly backfilled her roles. Panels found new faces. The world moved on, like it always does. But I didn't go back to being the old me, because she had taken that version and twisted it into something I no longer recognized. Instead, I became something new. I started volunteering with a local nonprofit for women veterans transitioning back into civilian life. Most of them didn't even know my story, didn't care. They just knew I showed up on time, helped with resumes, and brought snacks to every workshop. One woman, Keisha, was trying to apply for a government contracting role. She didn't think she could do it. "I've been out too long," she said. "People only remember the polished ones." I smiled. "The polished ones didn't do the work. You did." She teared up. I handed her a pen. "You belong in every room you're willing to fight for." She stayed after and asked if I'd mentor her. I said yes. One afternoon, Elise texted, "We're nominated, National Journalism Award. Thought you'd want to know." She attached a screenshot of the nomination list. Her article, "The Sister She Erased," was at the top. I replied, "If you win, you're buying the coffee." She sent back a winking emoji, then a second text. "You're a hell of a source, Lisa." I didn't say it, but I smiled at my phone. For the first time in years, I believed it too. Fallon's house in Austin went on the market that spring. No forwarding address, no public record of where she went. I heard from Miles that she was consulting, quietly, for a startup overseas, something in fintech. No veterans, no social impact. Just spreadsheets and currency and silence. The part of me that used to crave confrontation wanted to track her down and say, "You can't outrun the truth." But the other part, the one that had finally learned how to breathe without her name attached to mine, knew better. She'd already lost. Not in court, not in headlines. In life. Because the thing Fallon never understood, never cared to understand, is that legacy isn't about spotlight. It's about impact. And her spotlight had gone out. But mine had finally become a beacon. That summer, I got a call from a high school friend, Ava. She was teaching AP history at our old school. "Would you ever come speak to the seniors?" she asked. Not about the lawsuit, just about service, about resilience. I said yes. The auditorium was smaller than I remembered, but the faces were the same, eager, half-bored, skeptical, hopeful. I stood at the front and said, "My name is Lisa Blake. I'm a Marine. I've been impersonated, sued, discredited. But none of it mattered as much as the moment I stopped defending myself and started owning my truth." I told them service wasn't just about wearing the uniform. It was about what you do when someone tries to take your name, your honor, your story, and rewrite it for their own benefit. You don't have to fight dirty, I said. You just have to fight right. They clapped. And after the talk, 3 students waited behind to ask more. One of them, Jaden, held out a notebook for me to sign. I want to go into cybersecurity, he said. You think it's okay if I don't do combat? I smiled. You think Fallon ever saw combat? He laughed. No. Exactly, I said. Protecting people doesn't always look like boots on sand. Sometimes it looks like code on a screen. Just don't let anyone else take credit for the fight you actually show up for. I didn't realize how much space Fallon had taken up in my life until she was finally gone. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally. For years, I'd been the quiet one, the background, the supporting character in her made-up movie. But when I stepped into my own spotlight, not for fame, not for pity, just truth, something shifted. People started seeing me, and really seeing me. Not the sister of someone impressive, not the woman who got punched at a party, not the headline or the lawsuit, just Lisa. One night, I was walking home from the community center after a resume workshop. I passed a mural on the side of a coffee shop, one I'd walked by a dozen times but never really looked at. This time I stopped. It was a painting of 3 women, one in scrubs, one in military fatigues, and one in a firefighter's helmet. Underneath it said, "Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear the weight of silence until they're ready to speak." I stared at it for a long time. That used to be me. Silent, carrying shame that didn't belong to me. But now I spoke. And every time I did, the silence broke for someone else too. Dante sent me a link one morning. Looks like your story's headed to print again, this time in a textbook. He wasn't joking. Elise's article had been selected for a civics curriculum on ethics in media and identity. My story, our story, was going to be studied, not sensationalized. Analyzed not for gossip, but for impact. I didn't cry. I just sat in my kitchen, drank my coffee, and whispered to no one, "You can't erase what's been printed in truth." Fallon's LinkedIn reappeared 9 months later. New name, new profile picture, no mention of Radiant Arc, no veteran hashtags, just strategic consultant, private sector, based in Zurich. The bio was clean, sanitized, almost sterile. She was rebuilding, but not as me. Never again as me, because I had finally made it impossible. Mom never apologized. She sent one more email that fall, forwarding an article about healing after family estrangement. No subject line, no message, just a passive-aggressive breadcrumb, hoping I'd pick it up. I didn't. I archived it, because I wasn't going to do the emotional labor of explaining to her what accountability looks like. I had a new family now. Dante, Kara, Keisha, Ava, Miles, Elise. People who saw me not as a vessel for someone else's dreams, but as someone worth showing up for.
Face.
One day I got a letter with no stamp, just hand-delivered to the community center. Inside was a single sentence written in pen. "I joined because you did. See?" I smiled. Didn't know who it was, didn't need to. It was working. The truth had spread far enough to light someone else's path.
10.
I framed my discharge papers and hung them beside a photo of me in uniform. No one else in the picture. No Fallon. No fake story. Just me. Sand on my boots, hair pulled back, a real smile. No spotlight, no camera crew, no borrowed glory. Just the truth. And mine. On the anniversary of the verdict, Miles invited me to a low-key dinner with some mutual friends and colleagues. I almost didn't go, but something told me to show up. We sat in a small restaurant, shared laughs, talked about everything except Fallon. At the end of the night, Miles raised a glass to Lisa Blake for reminding us that justice isn't about punishment, it's about setting the record straight. They all clinked glasses. I didn't give a speech, just said thank you, because that's the thing about truth. Once it's spoken, it doesn't need defending anymore. As I walked home that night, I passed a girl sitting on a bench outside a bookstore. She had a laptop open and a notepad covered in scribbles. I caught a glimpse, "Women in Leadership," written at the top. She looked up. "Are you Lisa Blake?" I nodded, surprised. She beamed. "I'm writing a paper about your case. Your testimony. It changed the way I see what it means to lead." I didn't know what to say. So I just asked, "What's your thesis?" She grinned. "That real leadership isn't loud. It's lived. And sometimes the quietest people tell the most dangerous truths. I nodded. Good thesis. She asked if I'd read her draft when it was done. I said yes. As I walked away, I realized something. Fallon built a brand by borrowing my story, but I built a legacy by finally owning it. And while her name faded into forgotten footnotes and broken links, mine was just beginning to echo. Not through scandals or headlines, but through real conversations, real change, real women, walking taller because someone finally said, that story isn't yours to steal. Because the truth, it doesn't need a spotlight. It just needs a spine. And after everything, I found mine.